Hey everybody, this is David, and today I'm going to be reviewing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, the worst of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies. Maybe. We'll have to see until the Michael Bay movie, So let's get into the pros. What were the good things about this film, if there were any? Actually, surprisingly, there were a couple of good things that I enjoyed about this movie. One of the things that I really enjoyed was the Kenshin and Mitsu storyline. I thought those two characters seemed to be pretty interesting. They were obviously lovers, and they were separated because Kenshin traveled into our time, into the present, and she switched places with April, so April was sent back in time in his place, and all this crazy time travel stuff. Time travel is always fun to play with when it comes to movies, and this movie does it in an interesting way, I guess. But it's kind of sloppy how they do it at the same time. So this is one of those instances where a time travel movie wasn't done too good. But there were some interesting stuff I wish they could have played with more. I'll get into it as we continue on. Another character I really enjoyed was Walker, played by Stuart Wilson. He was like the new villain of this story, because Shredder's not in this one, so they got Walker, who is this guy who is an Englishman trading to the Japanese, trading weapons for whatever he's trading for. I forgot right now, but to me, Stuart Wilson is a really cool actor. He's not like A-list material, but I know he's done quite a lot of films. The one that I always remember him the most in was The Mask of Zorro. He was the main villain, Anthony Hopkins' rival in that film, and I always consider him to be a really good actor, and so he really brings a great level of acting range in this film. The acting in these turtle movies so far, I have never had a problem with. I think all the actors in all three of these films so far have been either decent to surprisingly really good. So, yeah, the acting, Stuart Wilson just fits the acting from the other three movies, that he's just one of the stronger actors in these films. Another really cool thing that I really enjoyed about this movie was the return of Elias Koteas as Casey Jones. But not only does he play Casey Jones in this movie, he's also playing Wit, who is the ancestor of Casey Jones. And it's really fun to see him play both characters in both times, because Casey doesn't travel back in time with the Turtles and April. It's just April and the Turtles. So Wit is his way of still interacting with the rest of the actors and the characters that are there, but he's playing a different character, and I wish they would have went into more of that character, because he seemed like an interesting one that they could have got more out of. But the movie, again, doesn't take liberties with those characters, the human characters. So, one of the funniest moments I really enjoyed in this movie was the part where when April is being confronted by the Japanese people for the first time, and her walkie-talkie starts playing. And the Japanese guys, they just start like destroying the walkie-talkie because they don't understand what this sorcery is with this. To me, that's some of the funny moments that are like in this film that I think make the film, okay, this is pretty cool. I'm glad they play with that, because it's like people from a different time reacting to new technology. Another funny scene I really enjoyed was the part where Michelangelo was making a pizza, and the pizza turns out really hard. It went overcooked. So Michelangelo throws it like a frisbee. He's showing it, oh look, you can use this like a frisbee, So he throws it, and it hits Donatello and the other guy that Donatello was working with. And Donatello gets so annoyed, and the other guy looks at Donatello as if it was Donatello's fault the entire time. And I just think that those are just some of the little moments, one of the rare moments that are actually pretty funny and cute in the film, that might make you chuckle. One thing that I think they should have played more around with was the ancient painting that Lord Norinaga had in his castle. There was this ancient painting with the four turtles and fighting some of his knights, or his ancestors as he said it. And to me, that was I think they should have dwelled more into like the mythology of that painting, because it seems like they had that painting there and it seemed interesting what they were talking about, like that it was his ancestor. But then you think about it, that doesn't really make sense. How could it be his ancestor? So what four turtles or demons were fighting his ancestors back then? Was it that, or was it a vision foreseen in the future? Maybe I always had this theory that maybe Lord Norinaga was an ancestor of the Shredder, and maybe that painting was foreseeing the future, that his ancestors would be defeated down the road. I don't think it was talking about his ancestors in the past. I think it was talking about his descendants in the future. But, the writing guy, the people who wrote this movie, they didn't think about it that way, so it never came to be. And now we'll never know. Now that I mentioned that as a negative, sort of, let's get more into the negatives. Let's get in more into the cons of this film. First of all, I have to mention the looks of the turtles in Splinter. This is the most horrendous designs I've ever seen of the turtles. The turtles look all foamy. They feel fake when you look at them. The great thing about the first two films is that they felt real. The skin tone, the color tone of the turtles, everything felt more real. Sure, there was something animatronic about them too, but not as much as this movie. When you watch this movie, you can feel it's a downgrade from the first two films. Splinter is even worse. Not only is Splinter looking horrible, but his voice actor, whoever they got, it felt like the actor didn't even give a damn about voicing this character. And now let's get into Corey Feldman. He returns as Donatello, and I expressed that I didn't care too much for Corey Feldman as Donatello, and really I still don't here. And the thing that makes it worse in this one is that they do push the Donatello is the genius of the group in this movie, and it just didn't work for me. I don't feel that Corey Feldman was that character, and I just hear him in my head. I know who's doing that voice, and to me, the voice... But then again, I asked my brother. My brother didn't know who Corey Feldman was, and when he heard the voice too, he said, yeah, that voice never clicked with me either. So it's not just me. I know there's quite a lot of people who share my opinion on this, and I'm sure there's people that are Corey Feldman supporters and they think he's a good Donatello, but for me, he doesn't fit the bill. And of course, I'm gonna go into this. The writing in this movie and the humor, a lot of the humor is really childish. I know they toned down things in the second movie, but the third movie really takes it to the next level. It's like they really took the backlash of what parents said about the first two movies, about the violence and the darkness and all that, and they really dumbed down the turtles in this movie. And I think that's what the problem was in this film. I actually found the more human elements to be the more interesting elements, and the turtle elements were the more dumb elements of the film. I did not care about the turtles in this movie. They felt stupid to me. They felt like they weren't the turtles that I knew from the first two films. The writing, the jokes, they did not work at all. And, it's sad because the fact that the human elements were more interesting, and obviously they weren't focusing too much on the human stuff. The turtle stuff should have been the more interesting stuff. But it was like, I don't know, it was like they wanted to really make it cartoony and lighter, that the way they tried making it work failed at all levels. Now, like I said before, there were a few moments that, okay, the turtles made me laugh here, but Raphael's story with the kid was okay, I guess, and Michelangelo's story with Mitsu, but other than that, I mean, it's not really strong enough to make it a strong film, and I think that's why I thought this movie was a big disappointment. My final thoughts on the film, I'm giving this a 4 out of 10. This is definitely the weakest of the Turtle films. I was heavily disappointed. It feels like a cheap imitation of what came before, and with just a few decent moments, and yeah, I mean, that's all I can really say about this movie, guys. The time travel was a little bit sloppy and hard to understand. I would have preferred if this movie like took Casey Jones and those four Japanese warriors and made like a story revolving around them, because I thought those guys were having a lot of fun. The hockey scene and where they're all playing hockey together and they just start fighting. I mean, you could make a whole comedy just based on those guys, and I think it would turn out to be a better movie. Um, but yeah, I mean, other than a few minor things, like I don't think this is like the most horrible movie ever made, but it's not a good movie. Like, yeah, 4 out of 10. So, I think you can skip this movie, but if you really are a huge turtle fanatic, check it out. You might like it. Most likely you won't. And really, it doesn't do anything to push the turtle story forward, and it's just like it stands on its own. So that's pretty much it, guys. And I'm not gonna say cowabunga this time. This one disappointed me. So take care.